Hello, and welcome to this edition of College Vision News. I'm Preston Hendrickson.
And I'm Luciana Barrera.
Our first story today comes from the Washington State Department of Transportation. Starting in mid-March, the L Street Bridge will be closed for the next 2 years. This project, jointly funded by the Washington State Department of Transportation and the United States Department of Transportation, to the tune of $324 million, is designed to replace the aging bridge and widen the I-5 corridor. In a statement from WSDOT, Regional Administrator John Winans said, "This monumental effort represents an over $1.6 billion investment in the highway infrastructure to not only increase capacity with new HOV facilities, but also to rebuild I-5 through Tacoma. Once finished, this will increase the lanes for southbound I-5 from 4 to 5, and northbound will add an additional lane at Pacific Avenue, an extra lane between the I-705 on-ramp and the Portland Avenue exit, and one HOV lane. All of this is expected to help alleviate congestion throughout the South and Central Sound Transit Corridor." Further information can be found on the Washington State Department of Transportation's website.
Let's check in now with James Wilson with the weather.
Thank you very much, Luciana. You know, today is actually not looking like too bad of a day out in the Tacoma area. We're actually going to be right around 45 degrees with a little bit of a chill, so there's going to be a little bit of a wind at 5 miles per hour. High is going to be at 48, low going to be at 32, so if you're heading out tonight, make sure you grab yourself a jacket. Stay tuned for the 7-day forecast. As long as you are with us, we're going to have that for you. Make sure that you're with us, and Preston, Lucy, back to you two.
Turning now to education news in Washington State. We have an update concerning the legislative agenda from the Washington State Board of Community and Technical Colleges.
State Board for Community Technical Colleges is an agency composed of policy associates that are experts in certain fields that impact a student's life. And what they do is draft bills and advocate for pieces of legislation that will better students' journey. The SBCTC advocates for students in many different ways. A lot of it includes going directly to legislators, whether it's a hearing or directly speaking to them in a meeting, and just advocating for the bills that they're working on. The SBCTC is advocating for hundreds and hundreds of bills. I couldn't go into every single one because it's so much, but I can talk a little bit about the ones that have been chosen by students across the community college system. Washington State Community Technical College Student Association is composed of students across the community technical college system, and we came together last year to compose a legislative agenda, and this agenda addresses food insecurity, college and textbook affordability, and reintegrating formerly incarcerated students. So one of the bills that the State Board is monitoring is House Bill 1893, and what this does is it expands the emergency funds that are in place at community colleges. Right now there is money that students can use when they are in need, but a lot of the colleges have policies that don't allow the money to be used for food services. And so what this bill will do is not only expand the funding in that, but also allow it to be used for purchasing food. Another thing that bill does is allow colleges to be waivered from certain federal requirements to use EBT cards on campus. And what that means is that students will be able to use their SNAP benefits on their college campuses. So House Bill 1572 and Senate Bill 5800 are companion bills. So what that means is that they are in each of the houses. There's one in the House, there's one in the Senate, but they're exactly the same. What this does is, if passed, it would launch a pilot program for 4 community colleges in the state, 2 on each side of the Cascade Mountain Range, and they would provide housing services, laundry services, locker room services, food assistance to students, and they're required to take data so that data can be used to see if this is an effective program that can be expanded to all the community colleges in the state. What we've been doing to advocate for these bills has been including going to the hearings at the Senate and the House, testifying on these bills, and really bringing in the student stories of how passing these pieces of legislation will positively impact a student's academic journey. There isn't a lot of opposition to many of the pieces of legislation. It's just an issue of having a finite budget where we can't pass everything. So a lot of times what it seems like is the voices that are the loudest that are attached to the bills are the ones that pass.
A new report from the Department of Education Office of the Inspector General says that the agency responsible for managing the $1.5 trillion in federal student loan debt failed to hold loan servicing contractors accountable for poor service to borrowers. The report covers a period between 2015 and 2017 and found that of the 340 plus audits of federal student aid servicers, fully 61% of the reports showed that loan servicing contractors engaged non-compliant behavior. A statement released from Education Department Press Secretary Liz Hill rebutted the OIG's findings, saying the department continuously strives to provide strong oversight of all contractors, including federal state loan servicers. In addition to the steps outlined in our response to the OIG report, the Next Generation Financial Services Environment, which will modernize our legacy systems, centralize and streamline processes and procedures, and improve service to millions of students, parents, and borrowers. Also will include rigorous performance standards and vendor accountability provisions that will support effective monitoring and oversight.
When we come back from the break, we'll be looking at the housing crisis in Tacoma and our college basketball update. Stay tuned.
Highland College's Math Center is a public aquarium charged with the goal of helping people discover sound science. Situated in the Redondo neighborhood of Des Moines, the MASS cultures marine stewardship by engaging communities through interactive learning, personal relations, and exploration. We're open to the public every Saturday, and admission is free. Check us out.
You're going to need me. You're going to need us. All of us. You're going to need our help with your water, your air, your food. You're going to need our determination, our compassion. You're going to need the next generation of leaders to face the challenges the future will bring. And we promise we'll be there when you need us.
Hey, let's check out this park. Oh, wow, that's really cool. To find a great local park or forest near you, go to discovertheforest.org.
Thanks for rejoining us on College Vision News. I'm Luciana Barrera.
And I'm Preston Hendrickson.
Turning now to college sports, we have a feature on the Whitman College versus University of Puget Sound men's and women's basketball matchup.
Time for your Big Technical College sports recap between the Whitman Blues and Puget Sound Loggers. Female basketball here, number 30 here, knocking down the three from beyond the arc. As well, she takes a nice step back two here. Second period action here, we see Whitman, number 13, as she drives it into the lane for a 2 and kiss off the glass. Number 3 kicks it over to number 23, who flies by the defender and knocks a nice layup up. Number third period action here, we've got a nice pick and go, give and go, as number 10 steps back and she fires a 3 of her own for Whitman. Number 13 from the corner, and she takes a nice 3 as they try to bridge the gap there. Number 11, though, for the Loggers is able to knock down a 2, and a nice 3-pointer here as we end our highlights. The Puget Sound Loggers win 60-55. Moving on to men's basketball action here between the Whitman Blues and the UPS Loggers. First half action here, we see the UPS Loggers, number 21, take a step back 3, doesn't come up with the basket, but number 1 in the post knocks it in for a 2. On the other side, we see the Blues driving into the lane with a nice step back 2-pointer there. Doesn't want the foul, but didn't get it. Right, again he goes into the post, doesn't get it the first time, but knocks it in on the second attempt. Back on the other side, we see the Blues once again in the post, looking to dominate with another 2-pointer. On the other side, we see the Loggers with a nice give and go, step back 3-pointers. He drops it from beyond the arc. Back on the other side, the Blues driving him in to the lane once again. First attempt doesn't fall, but the second attempt he's able to kiss it off the backboard for a nice 2. And our final score of this game, Whitman 85, UPS 77.
And what an exciting night. What an exciting night that must have been. Turning now to our top story, we have a report about housing challenges here in Tacoma and how one community on Vashon Island has taken a novel approach to increasing density and creating community.
Nestled in this idyllic location on Vashon Island sits a small community unlike most. This is the Vashon Island Co-Housing Community, a group of people who have come together to create an intentional community where members focus on creating the world that they want to live in.
Vashon Co-Housing is we started 30 years ago this fall. We purchased the land, it's 12 acres, just about half a mile from the town of Vashon Island, Vashon, right in the heart of Vashon Island. And we built on our property, clustered on 4 acres, we built 18 homes. And the pattern for co-housing is homes smaller than the norm, cluster to preserve open space with parking on the perimeter so that the village is pedestrian and so that it's really a safe place for children, old people, and everybody in between. And it's a real welcoming, inviting neighborhood. And the houses, as I said, are smaller than the norm, and then with a large investment in common facilities. So this is our common house, which is about 3,000 square feet. And here this is where we have our large dining room and kitchen and meeting rooms and laundry and children's room and guest rooms and offices. So this is our shared community space.
But where did the idea for co-housing come from?
Co-housing is a Danish concept, is a model of intentional neighborhood creation. It's a pattern for people to come together and work together to buy land and be our own developers. And we hired the contractors, we hired the architects, we hired the builders, but we were the developers.
When I asked why they started this community, Mark had a familiar answer that we can all relate to.
When we started this project, we had some twinkling of an idea, some grasping idea that this meant cheap housing. And then, well, no, this is the real world. So we thought, well, some sense of affordable housing. And the reality is that what it takes to do new construction, actually reconstruction, housing is expensive. In terms of the actual cost, the buy-in for this project, the early people buying in was, I'll say, about $40,000. And then that was buying the land and then doing the initial development, doing the initial engineering, planning. And then the individual homes were financed for about $150,000 to $200,000. That was 25 years ago, yes. And so, what it would take to build these houses now, I don't know. The original, the total project when we built it was probably about $2.5 million.
$2.5 million is a considerable stretch for most people in Tacoma, even with collaborating to privately create a community such as this. But what if this could be a model for future developers and urban planners to intentionally create communities? We'll explore that question coming up.
When we come back from the commercial break, we'll be sitting down with Dr. Anaid Urena, an expert in urban planning and a professor at the University of Washington-Tacoma, to talk more about the challenges facing Tacoma residents in the current rental environment. Stay tuned in, we'll be right back.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
Thanks for joining us. You're watching Bates College Vision News. I'm Luciana Barrera.
And I'm Preston Hendrickson. Joining us in the studio today, we have Dr. Anaid Urena, an expert in urban planning and a professor at the University of Washington-Tacoma, to talk more about challenges facing Tacoma residents in this rental environment. Thank you, Dr. Urena, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Preston.
So, I guess let's just jump right into this. I am mostly interested in co-living, co-housing options, and maybe so far as accessory dwelling units or ADUs in tiny home villages. I know that before our interview here, you said that co-living options are really probably our best option going forward. So why is that? I mean, what are some advantages to these co-living options, compared to, smaller units or even tiny homes?
Yeah, so one of the reasons why co-living arrangements are better is because they're compact living arrangements, and that compact does not necessarily mean tiny. It just means in less space, more people are living. And it is a way to achieve a more affordable, environmentally friendly, and sustainable lifestyle, and socially convivial lifestyle. So it's more than just having a lot of apartment dwellers living in a densely occupied lot, but it's about making decisions as a group and choosing lifestyle options as a group.
Right.
And that's why I think it's in stark contrast to the many other options that I think are worthy of exploration and that our city is currently moving forward with.
Okay. Yeah. So do you see Tacoma especially adopting maybe some co-living spaces in the future, or more condensed spaces?
Absolutely. So there is definitely interest for community land trusts, which are, I would call them an adaptation between a co-living shared housing arrangement and a more traditionally capitalist arrangement, consumerist arrangement, where everybody just buys a lot of land and everybody buys a unit to live in independently from others. In a community land trust, as I said, it's a way of bringing these two things together, because the and is owned by the community, by a group, by a board, and then the units that sit on that land are owned by individual households. Okay. And therefore, this joint community ownership leads to there being certain sets of rules, guidelines, aspirations that the residents of this space share and help maintain residents engaged with a broader community rather than just being homeowners.
Right.
So, and there's definitely interest for that. I wrote in 2017 an op-ed on the topic and had a lot of positive response in a local paper, a lot of positive response from both local officials being interested in that happening in Tacoma, as well as community members, which are the ones that can lead, are the most successful in leading the way in bringing a community land trust. Would be we need community leaders to take on the role of driving that.
People who take the reins. What are the challenges to starting a community land trust? It seems like a great opportunity for people who don't want to be individual homeowners.
Or homeowners by themselves.
Exactly.
So one of the challenges is having the necessary resources. So there needs to be the land available to do this. And I don't mean like a huge plot of land where they can build units, but in an urban environment like Tacoma, we're talking about having the resources to purchase several units within the community that then can participate in the land trust. And then organizing is a challenge. It is not an insurmountable challenge, especially not in a community such as Tacoma, where we have a lot of longtime residents that have been welcoming to newcomers like myself, and where we all seem to have common aspirations towards making our city a sustainable and livable city. So I think that those are two of the largest challenges of setting up a community land trust.
Okay. Well, thank you. So, and you spoke to me before we came back about a book that you had read that kind of explores co-living options in different countries and different communities on our own and how they work. First off, what is the name of this book?
So the book is called Small is Necessary: Shared Living on a Shared Planet by Anitra Nielsen. And the reason I wanted to share it with your audience is because for those people interested or curious about shared housing in all of its many manifestations, they could visit this resource, because it has detailed information and in-depth case studies of the different types of shared housing arrangements. So they could learn not only from like how to set one up, but they could also learn and expand their understanding or awareness of many of these other ways of living that are not individual home ownership.
Okay. And so one last thing before the end of the interview, there's a conference coming up about displacement. And so what's going on with that?
So I wanted to make sure that your audience was aware that this June there will be a conference called Resisting Displacement and Dispossession, and I'm hoping that Tacoma will be one of the several sites around North America to host a conversation around this.
Great. Well, thank you so much again for coming on today. Just because we have to address our housing market in some ways, and so I think there are many options towards that. But that was Dr. Annie Tijerina, and we will be. Thank you again for joining us. Sorry about that. And I guess have a nice day. Lucy?
Notable freshman congressional representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez released the Green New Deal this month. The long-anticipated bill outlines steps to take the U.S. economy and infrastructure into carbon-neutral territory within 10 years. Notable elements include universal access to high-quality health care, affordable housing, economic security, high-quality education, and healthy food.
Really big day for our economy, the labor movement, the social justice movement, indigenous peoples, and people all over the United States of America.
Critics of the Congresswoman's Green New Deal say that it is unrealistic and unattainable, suggesting that it may cost upwards of tens of trillions of dollars to implement. In a surprising turn of events, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell had this to say of the Green New Deal.
Let me say, first of all, however, I've noted with great interest the Green New Deal. And we're going to be voting on that in the Senate. We'll give everybody an opportunity to go on record and see how they feel about the Green New Deal.
In other Senate news, the U.S. Senate has overwhelmingly voted to reauthorize the Land and Water Conservation Fund in perpetuity. S-47, the bill introduced by Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska and Democratic Senator Maria Cantwell from Washington, passed with a 92-8 vote.
And S-47, this legislation before us today, is a recognition that our climate is changing and that we need new tools and carry out new responsibilities as it relates to managing those public lands.
The Land and Water Conservation Fund is paid for by oil and gas royalties from mineral extraction companies and expired in October of 2018. The bill now heads to the House, where it is expected to pass quickly, and soon thereafter head to the White House for signing by the President.
Now let's check back in with James Wilson for the 7-day forecast.
Thank you very much, Luciana. We'll start off by taking a look at the temperatures and the rain coming in on our journey over here towards weather. As you can see in Seattle right now, we're going to be at 40, Tacoma at 45, and we're going to have moving down south out here, Vancouver is going to be at 40 degrees. Moving out towards the east, you can actually see Yakima is going to be at 31 degrees, Pullman at 32, and Spokane out in the far east is going to as well be at 32 degrees. As you can see over here, coming off the coast of Westport and Forks, you can actually see a little bit of rain moving towards Tacoma, but it's not going to be anything to have any concern about as far as having an umbrella, but there is just going to be a slight chance of drizzle on your forecast for you. Now, looking into the 7-day stretch, as you can see, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, there is going to be clouds with a chance of rain on Thursday, but your weekend is looking a lot better. It is going to be partly cloudy with mostly sun Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, with a high of 52 during the weekend and a low of 35. And that was your 7-day forecast. Thank you for tuning in. I'm James Wilson. Lucy, Preston, back to you two.
Thank you, James. Turning now to financial news, the U.S. Treasury Department reported the tax receipts for the end of 2018 were 77% lower than the same time 1 year prior. The Treasury Department collected $310 billion in the fourth quarter of 2018, which represents a 2% loss in revenue for the government. The government spent $1.4 trillion, but only collected $1.1 trillion in tax receipts. Deficit hawks are already sounding the alarm that if the government doesn't rein in spending or enact revenue enhancements, that the status quo will be untenable going forward. The Congressional Budget Office, a nonpartisan government agency, attributes the loss in funding to the tax cut package passed by the Republican Congress.
Our final story focuses on students advocating for students. We heard earlier about how students in Washington State have an ally with the State Board for the Community and Technical Colleges. A little closer to home, Bates Technical College students and staff recently went to Olympia to participate in Legislative Advocacy Day, or as it's more commonly known at Bates as Cookie Day. Although Legislative Advocacy Day is an open event to any constituency, Bates has consistently stood apart because students and staff deliver chocolate chip cookies to legislators and their staff. Students had the opportunity to meet with representative and state senators to talk about issues that are facing students and how legislators can help students through public policy. Students came prepared with both facts and personal stories to advocate for the issues, and the results show. Currently, there are upwards of a dozen bills addressing issues from textbook costs to student homelessness making their way through the legislative process.
That's all for this edition of College Vision News. I'm Luciana Barrera.
And I'm Preston Hendrickson. Thanks for watching and have a great day.